I'm going to start really quickly by showing you this first demo application. I call it Where on Earth. And the reason is that it's the user interface for this demo is a map-based user interface. And it's a kind of an IoT type of a demo. It's, so I'm simulating IoT devices, but there's a simulator service and there's also an IoT microservice running here. This demo is live. It's running in Amazon, in Kubernetes in Amazon, using some Akka microservices. So the way this user interface works is if you can see the map, there's markers on the map, and these markers indicate where IoT devices have been distributed at various geographic locations around the world. So if I zoom in, for example, on the map, and this is very much like a Google map type of thing, I can zoom in, say, of course, I'll zoom into the Paris area. And as I zoom in, you can see that there's these markers change to kind of highlighted regions on the map that show where devices have been created. And there's a lot of them. In the bottom right, it's showing that in view here, there's around 11,000 individual IoT devices that have been created. Worldwide, right now, when I was at the world map, there's around 230,000, 236, I think, thousand devices worldwide. The data that we're seeing here, though, on the screen is coming from the backend microservices. And this zooming and everything is, being supported by of course, the front-end JavaScript, but the JavaScript is constantly talking to the backend microservices to get this information. So you can zoom in. If I zoom all the way in, you can start to see where devices are located. So these little, hopefully you can see it, but these little crosshairs show where individual devices are at. So I'm zoomed as close as I can get to the map, and at this zoom level, each of these regions, as I move the mouse around, covers. The way this app works is there can be one IoT device in that region. Of course, this isn't practical because you can have lots of IoT devices, say in somebody's home, for example, but this is just a demo. As I zoom out, it stops showing individual devices and it just starts to give me device counts. Now, it's interesting with these maps, and this is a map it's an open source project called OpenStreetMaps. I think it's openstreetmaps.org. You can find it online. Excuse me. But in any case, when I zoom out, there's zoom levels, and every zoom level, the map zooms by a factor of 4. So at the lowest level, as far as devices, I can see one device in one of these regions. If I zoom out, the region can hold up to 4 devices. If I zoom out another level, it can hold 16. So I can zoom. The reason why I wanted to use this demo or this map UI was because not only did I want to, say, have individual IoT devices, but I wanted to have a platform for testing, creating lots of IoT devices. So as an example, I can create a bunch of devices here. And if I zoom in, this will create 16 devices. So if there's some commands that I can do that for doing this, and when I said I want to create some devices, and I select a region on the map and I click it, and that sends a request to the backend system, and it just created 16 IoT devices in this region. So that's not very exciting. I want to do a lot, so I'm going to zoom out, and I'm zoomed out to a level that if I do a create, it's going to create 1,000 IoT devices. So I'm going to select this region that currently has 16 devices, but I'm going to say, just fill it up with, it's actually 1,024. So I click, it sends in a request, and then you can see it's already done. It just created 1,024 IoT devices. Now what happened was, this request went to one microservice that I call a simulator. And that simulator took that single HTTP request and exploded it into 1,024 gRPC requests that are sent to the other microservice, because I want to feed traffic to the second microservice and put a load on it. So I just sent 1,024 gRPC requests. I could reconfigure this thing to do HTTP if I wanted, but I put a load on it and it triggered a lot of activity. Now, if I zoom out even more, this is at 4096. So if I do a create here, I'm sending in a request and it's going to trigger creating 4096 devices. So you can see it's filling up the region here. Now it's running at 1,000 per second, but it did it pretty quickly. So, but again, very easy to put a load on this microservice. And I can watch it with performance tools. I can just see the response time here, and knowing a lot about what's going on behind the scenes is interesting. So I wanted to make this demo kind of fun and interesting with this user interface, but also give you something if you're really interested and want to dig into the code and really understand what's happening behind the scenes and see how this system is built to handle, fairly, non-trivial performance loads, and you've got this thing to play with.